Does it seem like your gut just can't digest anything? Like even the things that are out there that say they're IBS friendly, gut friendly, whatever, you can't digest it. And you're wondering why things are considered gut friendly when they destroy your gut. That's you. We have something that we need to talk about because I keep seeing this online. This is going to be a bit of a rant, but it'll be a helpful conversation. A lot of times I'll post something and say gut friendly recipe, gut friendly snack, whatever it may be. And someone will comment and say, this is the worst thing that you could eat. This always causes me symptoms. This is not gut friendly. Here's the thing. If you have low digestive capacity, meaning your gut is in a state where it is not digesting anything well, you are going to react to certain foods, especially gut-friendly foods like fiber-rich foods. That does not mean that those foods are causing the problem. The problem is that you have low digestive capacity. Now, the things that can cause low digestive capacity include being stressed. And if you're commenting things online, you might be a bit stressed, right? That's a big one. And that can be from like the psychological stress, like I feel stressed, I am stressed. It could be overwork stress. It can be lack of sleep stress. It can also be chronic illness stress. So if you have, let's say, a thyroid condition that's not being managed properly, autoimmune disease, you're dealing with endometriosis or PCOS, or you have IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, or even IBS, where your gut is just in a really flared chronic state, right? If you have stress from any trigger, any type of stressor, that is going to set your gut up to not digest as well as it could. Another thing that commonly happens is that you're actually undernourished. If you've been skipping meals, if you haven't been eating meals properly, and this could mean overall intake is low, which could result in nutrition deficiencies and weight loss. We see that the most commonly, and that'll slow digestive capacity because the body wants to preserve that energy and adapt to lack of nutrients. But we also see this in those who are eating enough calories, or maybe even eating more than enough calories. They might even be gaining weight, but they're not eating consistently. So they're feeding the body in sporadic patterns, like really long fasted states, maybe then binge-like states, things like that. That can actually decrease your digestive capacity, again, because your body tries to adapt to these behaviors in order to survive and try to create as much balance and kind of equilibrium as it can. And then you're not able to really digest anything very well. Another thing that can happen are just your behaviors around digestion. If you're sitting all day and not moving, that can impact your digestion. If you're not drinking any water, that can impact your digestion. If you're not taking time to actually chew your food, that can impact digestion. And then even how you prepare a meal. Like if you have a lot of raw vegetables, like a giant salad, that's harder to digest, especially if all those other things are in play. So there are very real triggers for digestive issues. We see this with FODMAPs, fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, specific carbohydrates. These are known to be triggers for IBS. Yes, these are common triggers. We know that for some, if you're lactose intolerant, dairy products are going to be a trigger for you. We know that for some, spicy foods may be a trigger. We know there are gut irritants, like high amounts of coffee and caffeine, and alcohol intake and drugs. Like all of that can impact your gut and decrease, how you feel. High fat meals are also known to be kind of irritating to the gut and to the digestive process. But if you're not digesting anything, and it seems like, anything that people are saying is actually digestive friendly or should work for me, maybe even that a specialized dietitian like myself is maybe sharing with you, but it's not working for you, then the question that you want to ask is not, then you're wrong because this doesn't work for me, like this is a trigger for me. Instead, you want to think about, is my digestive capacity low? This weekend, I was at a research conference, and so we know all of this stuff, and it's very true. And they specifically looked at anorexia. And this can kind of apply to all other people as well, but it's studied in anorexia, where there's been really intense restriction and caloric restriction. And what they found is that not eating certain foods specifically, so not eating carbohydrates, not eating fats, not eating proteins, the gut microbiome actually adapted to where the microbes that needed to be present to actually help break down those foods were no longer present. And I've seen this in practice a lot where if someone's been avoiding a food for a really long period of time, let's say your digestive capacity went down, you stopped eating certain foods, and then now it just seems like you cannot eat certain foods, or even if you work on your digestive capacity, you still aren't tolerating the foods very well, it could be that your microbiome has actually adapted to where those microbes that you need aren't present yet, and we only can make them present really by feeding them currently. Ideally, in the future, we have more targeted therapies and treatments for this, but for now, we need to feed them. And so sometimes we have to actually push through that discomfort in order to build up the microbes needed to break down certain foods. And so from a dietitian standpoint, what I would do, and this is what I did for myself, I've had IBS since I was a kid, I've dealt with chronic constipation all my life, I've dealt with these different stages, and this works best as long as we're addressing underlying causes as well. So that's another conversation. But if there's a condition or a problem going on that we're not really addressing, obviously we're not going to really make progress with your capacity and how you're tolerating food. But the approach that I'll typically take is first assess digestive capacity and start working on that first, how you digest food. Normalizing patterns, meal hygiene, how you're eating, incorporating balanced meals, and then most digestion-friendly meals to start. And then slowly start introducing some of these foods that you haven't been tolerating well, or you haven't even been eating, in very small quantities over time, being very consistent with it, have support strategies in place for the gas, bloating, and the symptoms that may come on, which would be expected, and then monitor that progress over time, and we should start to see the reactions go down and your variety and flexibility go up. That's my approach, that's my take, and that's for all the people that comment on the post. This isn't actually digestion friendly. There's more to the picture. There's more to the conversation than just eat this, don't eat that. And if you're following somebody or you're taking in information from someone who does just say that, it's like eat this, don't eat this, and just trying to give you these blank answers, or just trying to give you these random supplements or treatments that aren't actually evidence-based to do those things, and they don't understand how these different things are happening inside the body, that may not be the person to trust or work with, because you may not get to where you're actually wanting to go.